The Big 12 and the playoff is an annual discussion of how does the Big 12 get the most teams possible in. Who is actually best positioned to do that? Richie Bradshaw of Locked On Sun Devils is here to discuss. So I have to credit Brian Smith for putting this idea in my head, Richie, and I might just ask it to every single host at this network and call it the rest of my summer content. I'm just debating it. And so he said if you were looking at the non-big brands in college football, take out your Ohio States, your Alabamas, your Notre Dames, your Georgias, okay, all the obvious ones, Clemson, that you expect to be in the playoff basically every single year, barring unforeseen circumstances. Who are the teams that you think can make the playoff? And I thought, well, that's kind of hard. Then he went a step further and said, well, what about conference by conference? Now, Brian's teams in the Big 12, his top 4 Big 12 teams that will be next in line to make the playoff: Colorado, Baylor, TCU, and Kansas State. Your reaction to that list? And by the way, this is not a shot at Arizona State, because he's saying the next 4 programs that will reach the college football playoff, 12, 16, or 74 team format, whatever we end up getting.
So, first of all, you mentioned taking out the teams that we hear every year in the playoff. You didn't mention Arizona State. I thought that was really weird. Did Brian just put the other 15 teams in the Big 12 in a hat and just pull the teams out? Because there's a handful of other programs that I like better than Colorado, Kansas State. I mean, we kind of expect them to be in the thick of it every year. What were the other two?
Baylor and TCU.
Okay, so he just randomly picked Colorado because I like the other 3 teams.
Yeah, I mean, TCU feels, obviously they're capable. We saw that. If the program operates to its full capacity, we know that they're capable. My question is, do they get back there? Because they could have kind of a Florida State vibe to them. Florida State won the national championship, got to the playoff the next year. Since then, and then they popped up. Of course, they didn't get into the playoff. That's a whole different discussion and whatnot. But it just feels like we'll always think of, well, they had that one year, they had that one run, and then they just weren't able to stay at that level. But you know, as strange as it is that it's only been one off season where we can have this discussion I'm about to bring up, Richie, can I just put Texas Tech in there, please? Can I please do it? Can I make them the Texas A&M of the Big 12? Which is
don't do that to them. I like the Red Raiders. Hold on, there's no slander to my friends over in Lubbock. Chris Level would never stand for that kind of slander.
He would not. He would not. You're right. That's the program to me that feels poised, but there is that thought in the back of my head. The question you ask about Texas A&M all the time, under Jimbo Fisher, not as much under Mike Elko. I believe I had Texas A&M's record spot on last year within one game, and I think they will be good again this year. But it's more the Penn State question of the potential, the expectation, the relevance. It's there. It's always there. But where's the next step? When is the next step? And if Texas Tech makes the Big 12 championship game this year, that will be a next step for the program.
Yeah, and I think that we could be approaching that territory. I mean, as someone who's new to the Big 12, right? This is only my second year covering Arizona State in the Big 12. I don't know if this is an annual thing where we hype up Texas Tech as going to make a run for the Big 12. But, I mean, this certainly seems like one of the peak seasons that you would be having that kind of expectation for it, with all the money that they have spent, with all the names that they have brought in through the transfer portal, with some of the big guys coming back like Baron Morton, nothing bigger than him returning to this team. I mean, they've loaded up this defensive line. The receiver room looks pretty good. The offensive line is bolstered up. There's a lot of really good things that are going on at Texas Tech right now. And the last I checked, those are some of the things that you need the most to be able to contend and be a really good football team for the Big 12 and for the playoff and everything. So if they are the Texas A&M of the Big 12, then, I mean, this would be the year that they kind of epitomize that standard.
I agree, and it's really early. It's just that the trends are the same. You're a school based in Texas. You've consistently been good, but you haven't been great. And then because people have this aversion to money, sometimes you can take a lot of flack for, oh, look how much they spent, but they haven't won anything. And my point is forever and always what? So they shouldn't try. So they shouldn't invest. They shouldn't attempt to be one of the top talent recruiting teams in the high school and portal ranks in the Big 12. They shouldn't do that. They just should. I've always, I understand why Texas A&M takes a bunch of flack over in the SEC and has for many years. I get it. I get why that is a gut instinct. I'm not someone who has sat here and, excessively gone after him, because I look at him and go, you know what? At least they're trying. At least they care. They're trying to capitalize on an opportunity there. But give me a dark horse in bringing this back to the Big 12, Richie. Give me a dark horse program that we have not mentioned. So no Colorado, no Baylor, no TCU. I think Kansas State is a solid pick. Like
every year
within the next 3 to 4 years, I'd be surprised if Kansas State doesn't make a run to the playoff. Do you agree?
I mean, if you're going to pick another team in the Big 12, I feel like you go with the one that has had the most sustained and consistent success in that conference. And I mean, this goes back to when Snyder was running the team, and now you still have that bleeding over in the years beyond him. And they've just got that small school vibe. Even though you are a state university, you go to the Little Apple, Manhattan, Kansas, there's not a lot to do. So when those games pop up on Saturdays, that stadium is sold out, and you feel that stadium absolutely rocking because they're bought into that team every single year. They have 4-win seasons. They have 10-win seasons. It doesn't matter. And it's that level of consistency from the fan base that trickles over into the rest of the department. So, yeah, I do like Kansas State to get to the playoffs sooner rather than later. If I'm picking a team that hasn't been yet in the 12-team playoff, I mean, I got 15 different options. Kansas State might be my number 2. BYU's up there. We'll find out what happens with them down the road. Iowa State here's had a really good season.
Okay, Iowa State is a good pick. Here's my hesitation on BYU. And BYU fans and I had quite the dynamic last year. It took me a while to get on board.
Yeah, you and Drake Toll are their best friends. I get it, dude.
Yeah. So
we don't need 3 Locked On BYU shows. That's all I'm saying.
I fully disagree with you, but that's okay. So the thing with BYU is last year when they first burst on the scene and blew out Kansas State. I remember my takeaway very specifically. It was, this is not sustainable. I don't buy them. This was fluky chaos ball. And you know what? I love it. I like it's so much fun. I'm sitting here and enjoying it, but I'm also watching going, I don't know. I don't know if that's, I think that's a really good team. I don't know if it's a conference championship team. That did wind up being the case. They proved me wrong too many times for me to, do anything except continue picking against them. And BYU fans understood that. Right. I'm curious what the follow-up act is, because you had a magic. I still
like them.
Yeah, I do too.
There's just one problem. And that's what I'm waiting on, is until we have a resolution for what happens at quarterback.
Yeah.
You're only going to get as far. It's not the NFL, right? The NFL, if you have an elite defense, you can get there with average quarterback play. It's really not the same in college football. It's almost the exact opposite. You can go far with an elite quarterback and not a great defense. How many times have we seen a college football team with an elite defense carry average quarterback play? So you can point out Georgia if you want.
Nick Marshall at Auburn to the national championship game against Florida State is the one that always comes to my mind.
Right, and they didn't win it. So you're probably going back to Greg McElroy? Yeah, and that's fair.
Probably. I think some people would say Stetson Bennett, but Stetson Bennett's numbers were, he was a Heisman finalist.
That's what I was going to say is like Stetson Bennett, you could argue that. And it's, in the grand scheme of things, yeah, he's an average quarterback, but he was a very good quarterback at Georgia. That's the difference.
Yeah,
That's the difference.
I agree with that, and we'll see what happens with the Retzloff situation because of course that changes things dramatically for BYU, and we're not going to get.
I just want to see what happens.
Yeah,
right.
We're not going to get into all that, but let's presume that he's there for a moment. I still wonder with BYU, like it felt like there was a magical element to last year, and then it ran out at the end. Okay,
Yeah.
What's your follow up to that, Kalani Sitake and BYU? That's why they don't jump into my mind. Is I'm like, I don't know. I haven't seen them prove they can get Baylor, TCU, Kansas State. I think those are good picks. Texas Tech, solid. Iowa State, under the radar. Iowa State is a little bit of that, kind of Texas Tech component of, I've seen the potential, the flashes, the glimpses. I need to see a heck of a lot more before I'd get into that camp.
They're super good consistently, but are they great consistently?
Yeah.
Matty Campbell's got a really good program going on there, but
he does.
I feel like
obviously not as good as Arizona State's.
10. Yeah.
Obviously not.
Obviously.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Richie Bradshaw, Locked On Sun Devils, great as always. This might be an ongoing discussion here on the show because I have many thoughts. So tune in tomorrow. Appreciate everybody listening. I will see you next time. And until then, hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day.